Hi, my name is Jeannie Sweeney, and today I will be sharing with you classroom design and universal design for learning. When we think about the classroom design, I think about whenever I first was in learning as a student. I remember getting to sit at round tables with my classmates in third grade, but then there was a shift once I got to fourth grade. The familiar image of desk in rows facing the teacher is probably what many of us grew up with in school. The teacher was often the focal point of the classroom, if not always, and we just did our work. If we needed to collaborate, we would have to collaborate with the person in front of us or beside us, or if we were trying to move in groups, we'd have to often drag these tables across the floor, which made an unfortunate sound, but didn't really allow for collaborative learning and wasn't very student friendly in terms of classroom layout. So a question I thought was, how has UDL helped shift the design of the modern classroom? Today we'll discover learning spaces at two schools in KDISC, how teachers use UDL in the classroom, and some challenges that I am currently seeing in my own campus and recommendations based on those challenges. When we think of learning spaces, we want them to be collaborative. The UDL model allows for students to have flexibility for their learners, and also facilitators need that flexibility, considering that's their classrooms full of students, and sometimes maybe in class support or a para or both in the classroom as well as the teacher. And it offers mobility to students with visible and invisible disabilities. The past 4 years, I taught at Bethke Elementary. This school was built in 2016 and is one of the newer build models of KDISD. So the elementary, junior high, and high school campuses are built in a very similar fashion. This is the learning stairs of the campus. We only had one set of learning stairs, but the junior highs and high schools have several. Students can watch a friend present a paper. This right here, I have a student reading their opinion essays to the class. And so students can also use the space not as a presentation space, but also as a space to learn, read together. These were some collaboration benches outside the classrooms, equipped with stools and a outlet for charging devices. Students could gather in smaller groups, such as anywhere from 1 to 4. Sometimes I would have students use the space if they needed a quiet spot to learn and no one was occupying them. And then I had window seats in the back of my classroom. I have two friends right here sharing their writing plans with one another. And this was a nice spot for students to be able to collaborate with one another, as well as a good cool down area if a student needed to just gaze out the window for a little bit to calm their mind or to take a brain break for a moment. As you can see here, there's some painter's tape and in a large sticky note. I use this as a plot mountain throughout our units for our fiction books, and students would add their own stickies to this plot mountain. The reason why this one is so bare is because we were about to start a new novel later that week. Another look into the classroom, you could see flexible seating. I had yoga balls as well as groups of desk and fours if I needed a student to work independently or if they needed to or if we needed to make space for more students, we could easily move these tables. They were not attached together. I also had a rectangular table for students who wanted to sit in one stationary group. Students had a choice to sit wherever they'd like in the classroom. Also, took special notice for my students who had preferential seating listed in their BIT order IEP or 504. Those students I would try to sit close to me, but I would again allow them the choice as to what section of the table they would like to sit at. This is another look at the classroom. I have students gathered on a carpet. Some students could sit on the floor if they want to do read aloud, or if they want to sit at their desk, that was up to them as well. And then last but not least, these large collaborative spaces for students to discuss their work together. Now I'm going to touch on how teachers use UDL in the classroom in terms of classroom design and layout, planning, and collaboration. I am currently an instructional coach at Bonnie Holland Elementary, which is also in Katy ISD. This campus was built in 2008, so it is an older school. There are some spaces for collaboration, but they're not in the most favorable locations. The largest space each grade level pod has is right in front of the restrooms and a teacher's planning closet. So a small area. Some teachers put desks outside there. Some teachers don't have any desk outside. This is an art classroom, which I was very curious about in doing a learning walk just the other day. And I asked the teacher, why do you have the color names on the table? Is it just for art? And she said this actually helps her students who are young, so our pre-K and kinder babies who are very new to learning how to read, as well as students who are emergent bilingual or EB to the country and are learning that academic vocabulary. You could see that the students can gather their materials based on the color of the bin. So the orange table will naturally gather the materials from each of these orange labeled bins. You could also faintly see here perception and elements of art. So students could have various examples and visuals of those definitions. Another part of the art classroom that I really appreciated was this rubric for craftsmanship. It's not just words, but also has visuals as well as explicit examples that students can refer to. This is a third grade classroom. It is organized to help students maximize their learning and also work collaboratively in groups and is print rich. This is actually my son in his kindergarten classroom. Um, I think EDL is very important for the early grades, especially since students are just getting to learn their building. He's showing me where their morning bins are as well as their literacy centers. And you could see the pictures and graphics that go with various letters as well as their station's organization. In terms of planning, our teachers have on their lesson plan template emergent bilingual differentiation, as well as any SPED accommodations and modifications to assignments. The top one is for a fifth grade classroom at the beginning of the year with discussing what they're reading. Students were expected to write, but for students who are emergent bilingual, they could do a picture talk with their book. And for SPED accommodations, they could jot notes in their journals and also verbally tell the teacher what's happening in the book. This is a first grade classroom. Their EB differentiation is pre-teaching with vocabulary visual aids, and then give directions and small distinct steps to their students who are SPED. Some challenges I do see at my campus is a lack of knowledge about universal design for learning. And also expectations that other case managers for the students are responsible for making the decisions in terms of accommodations and modifications. This should be a partnership and not something that's only delivered from one person. And then also uncertainty. What is UDL? Teachers who are currently going through reading academies in the state actually have a section on UDL, but teachers who are not completing those might not have a clear picture of what it is. Some recommendations I can make is intentional planning for students, both in weekly planning and in planning with case managers. I could offer PLCs and PD on components of UDL, and last but not least, learning walks of spaces on campus that are aligned to UDL principles. Last, I'm going to leave with this quote from Brushka Vega and Treckles in their chapter Access to the Curriculum.